Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining our webcast today. My name is Sandra Smith, and I'm the Sage Intelligence Product Specialist. And today, we're going to be talking about Sage Intelligence reporting and learning useful Excel tips and tricks for better business reporting. So today, everyone's muted, but if you have questions, feel free to use the WebEx chat pane, the chat window. There's also a Q&A window that you can type your question in. I'll most likely answer questions towards the end. If you have any questions, feel free to enter them, or you can send them to me at sandra.smith@sage.com. Now, we're recording this webcast, so you will receive a copy of it in the next day or so of this recording. And there's a lot I'm going to cover, so there's a chance I'm going to be going over the 30 minutes, but again, you'll receive the recording of this webcast. So let's talk a little bit about the business intelligence capabilities of Excel 2013, because that's what we're going to talk about in this session today, how you can create powerful reports, of course, using Microsoft Excel 2013. There's all kinds of formulas and functions, but the business intelligence features that Microsoft Excel 2013 gives you is more of a visual representation of your data. So some of the business intelligence features in Excel are the flash fill, quick analysis, power view, and then we've got filters like timelines and slicers. And what these features do, are they enable it to make it much easier for you to present your data. What this means to you is that there's a lot of non-complex attributes within Microsoft Excel that can help you tell the story of what's going on in your business and how you and your employees can grow your business. Now you think about it and you say, how can it help me grow my business? Well, because it answers those questions that you have around your business, like where do I stand on revenue, or what are my product sales, or am I losing customers, whatever's pertinent or specific to a particular role. You can create a report that answers those questions very easily, very graphically, and representing the information within your system, within your business. So this is actually a copy of a Sage Intelligence report that a partner had built. It's their financials, and what this does is this uses the analytical capabilities of Microsoft Excel. So maybe a lot of you on the call may be experts in Excel. Maybe some of you are brand new to Excel. It doesn't matter. This demonstration is, just going to give you that idea, give you some ideas of how to create your reports or modify your reports. So using the Microsoft Excel capabilities so that you can really give the user what they need. So Excel and Sage Intelligence, what you'll see, is a very powerful combination. So in the demonstration, I'm going to talk through a few general Excel tips, and then I'm going to go through just a couple. Then I'll go through just a couple more that will give you an idea of how you can prepare your source data to be able to view your data in pivot tables, charts, and then Power View, so that you're better presenting your information or your data for the user. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've gone ahead and changed screens so that you should be looking at a Microsoft Excel table here. And this is just a static Microsoft Excel report. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk through a few Excel features and functions. Some of you, they're very simple. Some of you may have seen them before. Some of you may not. But it's really the idea of what I'm trying to do. I'm taking this source data and I'm going to make it so that it provides me with the information I need from my user, because maybe the source data doesn't have everything that I want. So the first one I'm going to start with is days, number of days. So what I have is a sale date, I have a last invoice date, and I just want to know the number of days between these. And I'm going to use it in my report, possibly. So what I can do is I can easily go to the Formulas tab within Microsoft Excel, and I can look at some of these icons and see which one would that be. Well, it would probably be the date and time. So I get the drop down, and there's quite a few. But if I hover over them, it'll tell me, okay, here's date, and that's not really what I'm looking for. Day is not necessarily what I'm looking for either. If I hover over days, that returns the number of days between the two dates, and that's what I'd like to do. So I'm just going to click on that. Clicking on that formula automatically brings up the function argument window, which tells me exactly what I need to do. It defines the end date, which is the first value that I need to provide it. And the end date actually happens to be the last invoice date. So I just want to click into that cell. It's the last invoice date because, again, I want to know the number of days between my sale date and my last invoice date. Now I'm pressing the F4 key 3 times, 1, 2, 3, to reference the column so that my formula can be copied from row to row to row. So it's referencing the column. That's my end date. I go into my start date, do the same thing, and I have a value already. Select OK, and there's my number of days between two dates. Very simple. Now you see this little dot here. I'm going to hover over it. This is an Excel trick. You get a little plus sign, and if you double-click that, it fills in all of the rows. So now I have all of the days between two dates, and I can use this in many different methods, many different forms in my report. So now I want to look at the net working days, or the working days between these two dates. And this time, instead of picking out the formula from the menu, I'm just going to click right into the formula bar. Type equals, universal symbol for starting a formula for Excel. And if I just start typing it, net work days, there it comes up. There's 2 choices I have. And notice how it gives me the definition as well. And network days is what I want. I'm not worried about international right now. So I double click on it, and it says, okay, here's what I need. I need the start date first. Notice I hover over end date, it doesn't highlight it for me, so I know that start date is what it's asking for first. And in this case, network days, the start date is this one. Just happens to be different. Press F4 3 times. Now what I need to do is type in a comma, because that's my separator, so that I can then move. Notice now it highlights the end date. Simply go to my end date, F4 3 times, and close parentheses, press enter, or I can just press enter and it closes the parentheses for me. So that's 209 days between these two dates. I'm going to double click, and it fills everything in. Again, that's the fill button using Excel. These are very simple. Sum is simple as well. Type equals sum. You have many different options. I'm just going to use the most simplest one. It just is somewhat. I want to summarize these 3 values. Press enter, and there's my summary. Double click and fill in the rows. But this time I want to do a sum if. So let's say you know that there's a spiff going on, or you have maybe some salespeople, if they sell over $100, or maybe your customers, if they buy over $100 worth of product, then they get a discount. So you want to see the summary. You can create a discount later, but let's just see who is eligible. Type in equals sum if, double click. It says, okay, first I want the range. What are you summarizing? Okay, I'm summarizing these. F4 3 times. Separator, always put in your comma separator. Now it says, what's the criteria? Now when you use a criteria, you want to type in your quotation marks, because this isn't a cell reference, unless you want to reference a cell. In this case, I want to say greater than 100, close parentheses, add my comma, because that ends the, actually I can finish this just by closing parentheses. So there it gave me the summary, because all of these are over $100. But if I fill in, look, there's some that are 0. These don't get the discount because they didn't sell it. They did sell something, but not over $100, so they didn't get the discount. So these are very simple. They'll get a little bit more complex as we move along, but they're very simple. Now the point being, you can set your information up now into a report. So I can simply get a new sheet. I'm going to insert a pivot table. I'm going to do this a few times, so if you don't get it the first time, don't worry. I'm going to go to my source data, and I'm going to highlight the whole thing. Shift, Control, down arrow and right arrow gets everything, and I'm just going to send it to that worksheet I was just in, and there's my pivot table. So then I can, what I can do is add my name and my SUMIF. SUMIF, of course, is not the name of the value there, but that was just for demonstration purposes. You can change that name. You can, as a matter of fact, you can change it in your values tab right here. But this is my simple report. Maybe I want to get the top 10 sales. There's my top 10. Select OK. Maybe add a pivot chart of sorts. And there's a report, very, very simply. I'm going to go through a few more exercises, but you'll know that once this report's created, it's going to be static because this is just an Excel template. We're going to walk through how you can do the same thing in a Sage Intelligence report. But before we do that, let's just go over a few more items that you can use, a few more Excel tips that you can also do. So I'm going to go to my next sheet here. And what I'm going to do, this is quick analysis. This is one of the Microsoft Excel 2013 version features. It's a great feature. I love this feature. So if I simply highlight my table, and of course my table can be this source data table for demonstration purposes, though I just want to make it a little bit smaller, but I can hover over the quick analysis button here. Simply click on it, left click on it, and look at all these different options. I can format it using data bars, and I'm just hovering over. If I click into it, it of course would add this to my table. There's data bars, a color scale, icons. I've got greater than, so you know which ones are greater than others. My top 10%. I can go to charts, and I can look at what the charts look like. It really, for this data, it's really just a clustered bar. If I want to hover over my totals, you can see the sum. See down there in row 25, it has the sum, average, count, percent total, running total, and then we can go to the column. See column F, there's my sum of all the rows. Previous was the sum of all the columns. So I have my sum, average, count, percent total, and running total of all of my rows. I can look at different tables, so how pivot tables would look, different options. Remember, I created that other pivot table. This is very easy. It'll just show me very simply. I can look at spark lines. So see how each of the sales of each of the rows are trending. There's my line, there's my column, and my win-loss. So let's go ahead and just click on that one. And of course you can open up these to view them a little bit bigger. You can see the negative ones standing out very, very quickly. So it's just a very easy method for being able to see your information in a graphical format. I'm going to talk through lookup. We've got a couple tabs on this one. And let's just say, for example, we have a table. This one isn't that large, but your tables might be really big, and you want to have your user look information up. And you want to, rather than using filters, let's just create a lookup table. And the table will be hidden, but this lookup little lookup set of cells can be in a report, for example, on another sheet. So if I want to find the sales amount from a lookup, that this is where the user enters the value, let's type in my lookup formula. I'm going to type equals, and VLOOKUP is what we use. So VL, double click. And so my lookup value is the first thing I need, and that's this one right here. That's what the user is going to enter. And then the next is the table. So I just highlight the whole table. Next, it's just asking for the column index number. All it's saying is what column do you want is sales in. Sales is in the second column. So I'm going to type in a 2. And then if I use my separator, don't forget your separators. That'll move you to the next part of the formula. Let's say I'll just say exact match. So I select OK and then press Enter. Now it's an NA, but that's only because I don't have anything in here. So if I type Irvine, press enter, there's my sales value. But let's say, like you saw, I started to misspell it. I accidentally misspell it. Well, it doesn't give me anything. So what I'm going to do is go back, and instead of saying false, I'm going to say true for an approximate match. So notice if I type Irvine or if I type Atlanta, say, well, it still didn't get that part. But anyway, the approximate match value will come up. Okay, I have too much going on in here, I think. Let's go ahead and get the other one. You look up, we have our value, and then we have our table. And this time, for our region, it's the third column. And this time we're going to do an approximate match. Let's see. It's okay. Sorry, folks. You're probably shouting out what I'm doing wrong here. Let me just start over here. And finally, my approximate match. And I'm doing something wrong here. Okay, we're going to move on to the VLOOKUP month, which is just another, I'll come back to that one if we have some time. This is another VLOOKUP and adding in information that relates to a fiscal calendar. Let's see if I can. There we go. You can see my calendar over here. It's January is not the first period, so what I want to do is I want to include it into my, as a formula, as a VLOOKUP formula, into my heading here. So if I type the equals VLOOKUP, and it's asking for the value, this is my period, and I'm going to press F4 twice, 1, 2, so that it can look from column to column. And it needs my table, and here's my table. And that's, I'm going to absolute reference that particular table. My column index number is 2 for the second column that the month is in. And I do want an exact match. And we have March, and we're going to drag it over. And there's all my values. So it's simply looking up this table. Maybe you have several companies, use the same table, use a different table, just for the user to be able to see the approximate month, because maybe they're working with many different companies with many different fiscal values, and you can just use the table as a lookup. So VLOOKUP is very helpful to use. You can also add additional values or additional lookups nested within those. We have some tips and tricks on this, so I can point that out in our resources section at the end of this presentation. But one more time, this information is in Excel, Microsoft Excel. It's all great, but what the only difference is this is static, so this is just an Excel table. If I save it, I might save my formulas, but none of the data is going to change. I'm going to have to copy and paste additional data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I'm going to use Report Manager, Sage 100 Intelligence Reporting for 100 Contractor Report Manager. This is where we store all our reports using Report Manager. And we have quite a few project reports. We have several reports that are within each of these folders. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this committed costs report. And I copied it to my, my reports folder, and I ran it out simply using the Run button. A little of time, and I already ran it out because there's a lot to get through. So this is the committed cost summary report, and this is a report using Sage Intelligence. And I ran the report out, as you saw, from Report Manager because the report template is stored in Report Manager. It's an Excel template, and it's a template because it has all of the formatting here that we have, but the data, since Sage Intelligence has made a connection to your Sage 100 contractor accounting system, every time I run the report out, the data is updated, so I don't have to copy, paste, or I don't have to worry about what information is the information correct or updated. And I can simply run it out and look at the information here. We have our bottom 5 jobs by remaining budget. We have our committed cost report summary. And you can see it's a pivot table on the left. So let me open it up a little bit here. So you see the pivot table fields. All right, so if I wanted to see actual costs, I simply select actual costs in the pivot table field list, and there they are. Okay, or not, so I can change the view of it. I can filter. So if I want to look at both the California office and the Nevada office, I can. I can filter by division name, cost name, and you have a nice graphic up at the top. So this report's already created, all right, and we've built or formatted. We've built a format for you, for your summary, for your detail. Okay, but let's say you would like to look at something different. You want to change it using Microsoft Excel value, formulas and source and stuff. So I've opened the source sheet. It's really just, you just unhide the sheet within a Sage Intelligence report, and you'll see the source sheet. This is all the source information from your 100 contractor report. Okay, and I've added a couple columns here you can see. So we have our cost code name, and then both of them together, the cost code here with the name. They've concatenated it, or they've brought them together, but I don't like that. I want to be able to see it differently than that. So I'm going to show you a couple methods for doing that. And the first one is using concatenate. Okay, so I have it in parentheses there. So if I just type equals concatenate, double click. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add together my cost code and the name. Again, typing F4 3 times so it copies the or uses the value from row to row. And there it is. So they're both concatenated, or they're joined, but then there's not that, so I just have the number, which is exactly how, you know, I wanted it to see, but there's no space between the two. Simply changed. Click into the formula. Remember those quotation marks. Let's say space, I want to put a dash in it. Add the quotation marks, add the separator again, press enter, and there's a nice dash. The fill button, and there's all your information added or copied down. So that's one method, but let's use the Microsoft Excel 2013 flash fill capabilities. This is so easy. So let's say I want to turn it around. I want the name first. So I'm just going to type in general requirements, space, dash, space 1000. And I'm going to go to the next one and start typing in contingency, and notice it fills everything in for me. It says, is this what you want? Absolutely. How easy is that? Flash fill. So there you can change some of the values. Maybe you don't like the way the source sheet values look. You can make changes to them. I'm going to do one other thing, because in a report that's coming up that I want to create, I want to use the city. I happen to not have brought in the address, but I know the office, the California office or department name, that's the area is 1. So I'm going to use an if statement here. Say equals if this cell is equal to 1, then I want it to type in, there's my quotes again because it's not a cell. I want it to say something specific, Irvine, California. And if it's not a 1, then I want it to say Las Vegas, Nevada, because there's a Nevada office in here. I don't know, Reno, Las Vegas. And then I want to just make sure that, close parentheses, and so there it's looking at California. And if I scroll down, there's my Las Vegas. You can add others, but we really only have two locations here. But that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the city. So what I'll do is I'll use this information in my reports. So let's say I want to create a nice dashboard. Let me click on the tab, go to the next tab, and oh, blank sheet. Well, very easily done. You kind of have to think ahead of time how you want the dashboard to look. And what I'm going to do is I want to see my job number by job cost and maybe a cost code by budget, something like that. I want to put my tables down here because I want some charts up at the top. You got to be careful where you put your charts and tables. You don't want them to run into each other. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. So I'm just going to select the Insert button, just like I did previously on that static report. Insert, Pivot Table. It's asking for my range, my table range. I'm going to use my source sheet here. And since it's Sage Intelligence, I can just say Raw Data. And I'm going to send it to my worksheet that I've already opened, the dashboard one. Select OK. And there's my pivot table. I'm already clicked in, ready to go. And what did I say I wanted? I wanted the job number, or excuse me, the job name. Oh, there it is. And my job costs. Here they are. So there's my chart. And I want to change a few things. So I'm going to come down here to the values, and I want to see them as currency. I just change the number format to currency. And there it is. That looks a lot better. And maybe I want this to look, I'll have a white so it'll show up with a nice dark background. And then maybe over here, I want to, on my row labels, I want to sort it. So I'm going to select the drop down and then more sort options. But I want it descending because I want the highest cost at the top, descending by job cost. Select OK, and there it is. So now what I want to do is I want to see it in a graphical format very easily. I'm clicked in. You have to be clicked into the pivot table in order to see your Analyze tools. So I select the Analyze tab, select the pivot chart, and I can simply just click over and see an example of each of them. I kind of like the pie. I'm going to do the 3D pie. You can have pie of a pie, so you can see a percentage of the total. But I'm just going to select this particular one, select OK, and it's floating, so you can put it anywhere you'd like. I'm just going to shrink it a little bit and clean it up a little. I'm going to hide the field buttons. I'm going to change the, let's see, I think this is my top job costs, for example, something like that. So there I have my chart. I have my my visual. And now for the user, rather than having to use a drop-down button for a filter, I just love this part, is we go into the Analyze tab, and then we insert a slicer. We can insert a timeline too, but let's do a slicer. Oh, you can slice it many different ways. I'm just going to choose a division name, select OK, and there's my slicer. So I can sit there and click on whichever one I want. It changes my table, my chart. I can do multiples if I'd like. And let me go ahead and make this just a little smaller. I'm going to put this up here, make it smaller too. If I go into my if I go into my slicer options and change the color, I can just make it look visually appealing. And then maybe I want to look at one more table. And here's my table. But it's just the exact same thing I just did. I don't want to see the some of the job costs here. What I want to see is, let's say, the cost code name. And this time, remember that flash fill? It came over just as I had typed in that source data. There's the flash fill and there's the concatenate. Remember those headings? This is how I want it to see. Right? That's exactly how I want it, with the number after the name. And I can uncheck my job cost, or I can drag these in and out of these areas at the bottom. And then this time I want to see, instead of job costs, I'm going to take a look at maybe actual costs, remaining budget, you know, whatever you'd like to see. And I need a little bit more real estate here. Okay, so there we go. So now we have our actual cost or remaining budget. We can change these to a summary. Again, the number format, sorry, to a currency. Select OK here, and OK our value field settings. Again, I'm just selecting the drop down, value field settings, number format to currency, select OK. There I have those. And let's change the heading. Remember, we want it to come out so we can see it. And on our row labels, maybe I want to just see the top 10. So I select my drop-down, value filters, top 10, and where I can change that to more or less. Let's just do our 10. There's my table. So I have my table. Once again, I'm clicked into my pivot table. I'm going to go to my Analyze button. I'm going to choose my pivot chart, and there's quite a few here that I can use. Let's just grab the 3D one. That looks great. I have a big negative one in there. I'm going to just resize it. I can clean it up a little bit. It gives you a little bit more room if you hide some of those field buttons. If you want, you can add a chart title, data labels, whatever you want to add. Top, I think it was costs. Let's just say top costs. And there is your dashboard. Simply add in the title, and maybe even a little background to the title. Go to your View tab, remove the grid lines, and there's your dashboard. So the user can select whichever one they want to see, and notice everything is changed. Now, what we do is save this in Report Manager, and every time it's run out, the values will be updated, but your format will be exactly the same. You don't have to copy and paste. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to show you how you can use it very simply, a Power Pivot, and do a dashboard very, very easy. This is so cool. So if we go back to the source sheet, remember you can, any Sage Intelligence report, run it out, right click, unhide the source sheet. I'm going to check Insert. I'm going to go to Powerview here. You'll see it in Excel 2013. And what it's doing is it's taking all the data in that particular sheet, and it's automatically creating a pivot table here. It's gone ahead and suggested a few things for me, but what I'd like to do is I'm just going to do what I just did in the other one that I created. I'm just going to do job costs, and I'm going to unselect all of these. And I'm going to use the job name. And so there's my little table. And in order to get my chart, I'm going to come over here. I did a pie chart, I believe. Just select the pie chart, and then, sorry, not drag the whole thing, open it up. I can filter on it, look at each one of them. I can pop it out. So if I hover over this little arrow in a box here, pop out, I can see the whole thing, pop it back in. It's just a little widget. I can type a title, and let's say, let's add another one. So I'll go back to my source sheet. Very simply, insert, remember, insert Powerview. Now it says this time create on a new sheet. Nope, I want to add it to the same Powerview. So I'll select OK. There's my pivot table again. And just like I did with the previous dashboard we created. I'm going to do job costs, and I'm not going to do these. It kind of makes it a little too much for what I want to show you. And that is, I want to use the city. Remember the city I created, because I want to show it on a map. Now remember that if you use a map, you have to be connected to, of course, the internet. And there's my map. So I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can actually see it. And move out a little bit so you can see my city. This is my Irvine location with my job cost, my job number name for one of the jobs, and here's my Las Vegas. I can pop it out. If you have other cities, other locations, you can zoom out and look at all of them at one time, or just include it. So this is a very easy way to present your data using Microsoft Excel functionality in 2013, also using Sage Intelligence. So I can have this Power View along with my committed cost detail that we've already created. I would probably, since I'm finished using creating the source sheet the way I want to use, I can go ahead and hide that. I'll go back to Report Manager, highlight the report, save it as an Excel template. It says, is this the one I want to save? Yes, please make a selection. There we go. And yes, I want to put my parameters on the second sheet. That's what Sage Intelligence needs. And I just follow the indications. It's busy here creating that template. And so the next time I run the report out, it'll look exactly as I left it. It'll include all of my unhidden sheets, and it'll include all of my PowerPoint values. It will just include, or format, it'll just include the values that have been updated within your Sage 100 contractor. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about how Sage Intelligence can meet your needs. Several things. So those of you on the call are probably familiar with spreadsheet chaos. You've sent a spreadsheet to somebody and they're saying, well, wait a minute, this isn't the right value, it's not updated, it's not the latest, whatever the question is, or you forgot to change the formula here. That's the chaos. But with Sage Intelligence, since all the reports are stored in a controlled and secure environment in Report Manager, you simply run the report out, and it runs out into Microsoft Excel with the latest information. The format is saved every time. And you can see where you can automate some of your report preparation using our Report Designer, Report for Financials, using some Microsoft Excel 2013 functionality. So it really makes it easier in building your reports. It's very flexible. You can customize the reports, as you've just seen. So I've customized that committed cost report, even by changing some of the source data. And it allows you to collaborate with the rest of your business, because that's the idea. You want to get the information to other people who can make decisions, and this information is specific to their business, right? So help them out. Add a VLOOKUP where they're looking up the sales region, or they're looking up a sales value from a table, or allow a dashboard with charts and graphs so they can visually see what's going on in their company, so they can simply make decisions looking at it at a glance, rather than having to spend so much time rather than spending so much time analyzing the information. Just make their analysis very easy for them. Now we consolidate data. The reports can the Sage Intelligence can be connected to other sources, so you can build reports from additional sources other than your Sage 100 contractor. And let's say you have maybe you have a CRM resource or a table that you want to make a connection to. You can do that. Maybe you have Excel that you're storing data in and you're updating frequently. Make a connection to a Microsoft Excel table. It's a table. And then you can create reports using Sage Intelligence from that Microsoft Excel table, and any time that information is updated, the additional values will be visible. And then finally, we have out-of-the-box value from all those predefined reports that we have. I don't have time to go through those today, but we have videos on how you can access those reports. We've got documentation on a description of each of those reports. And of course, finally, it's easy to use because it is Microsoft Excel. I've just shown several very simple Microsoft Excel formulas that make a pretty big difference in how you report. We have information on how to learn Sage Intelligence as well as Microsoft Excel. So if you go to our sageintelligencecommunity.com, that's where you can get guides, product guides. There's how-to learning videos on how to use different aspects of Sage Intelligence. And then, of course, recorded webcasts such as this one and forum discussions. But we also have information on Microsoft Excel. So if you go to sageintelligence.com/subscribe, you can also get to it at the community. You can sign up for our tips and tricks. And these are Excel tips and tricks. We call it Excel on steroids because we have a training class on Excel, and it's called Excel on Steroids. It's a beginning, intermediate, and advanced class. There's 3 different ones. You can take all 3 or one at a time if you choose. But we also send free tips and tricks to you that's part of that class. So if you sign up for it over time, you're going to get a lot of tips on how to use Microsoft Excel, as well as tips on Sage Intelligence. So I thank you very much for your participation. Thanks for joining. You will receive this information. It looks like I can send the presentation. I'll notify the people that are sending the video recording out. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time. And I'm going to go ahead. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'll hang on. If you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat pane.